Good evening, I'm Klaudia Czerwińska and you're watching World News Tonight live from Warsaw. A big announcement coming from Poland. Prime Minister Donald Tusk on Monday announced the government's new economic strategy. It will include record-breaking amount of money for new investments totaling over $160 billion. More on that in just a moment, but first, the latest headlines. Romania's President Klaus Iohannis steps down, sparking clashes in Bucharest. Elon Musk calls for a shutdown of US-funded media outlets in Europe. 60 major companies join forces to boost AI in Europe. Prime Minister Donald Tusk says more money will be invested in Poland through the end of 2025 than ever before. It comes as the country's GDP steadily builds, with close to 4% growth expected over the coming months. Our chief political correspondent, Aaron Damon, reports.
A breakthrough year for Poland. That's according to Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who fronted up here at the Warsaw Stock Exchange with a big-ticket speech, mapping out a new dawn for this country's economic future. And top of his list was one word: investment.
In Poland, investment in 2025 will amount to over 650 billion zlotys. And we're convinced, myself and my government, that it's a conservative estimate. Today, actually, I could say it will be closer to 700 billion rather than 650, and that's a record-breaking amount.
All up, Prime Minister Tusk is talking about at least 155 billion euro injected into the Polish economy. That includes tripling growth at shipping ports on the Baltic coast, pumping cash into railways, and finalising deals with the likes of Google and Microsoft. Speaking exclusively to TVP World, Finance Minister Andrzej Domański is confident that Poland can compete with the continent's traditional financial heavyweights.
Absolutely. We are joining the group of the strongest European economies. And year by year, we are accelerating, our economy is improving, and therefore, in the terms of, for example, GDP per capita, we are doing better and better.
Just last month, preliminary figures revealed that Poland's economy grew by 2.9% in 2024. That's 2 percentage points higher than the European average. Now, Prime Minister Tusk wants to strike while the iron is hot. In Warsaw for TVP World, I'm Aaron Darman.
Citizens of Kosovo voted in general elections on Sunday. 120 MPs were elected to what will be only the 8th term of parliament in the country's short and turbulent history since it declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Our Balkans correspondent Paweł TUSK'S is on site and has more details. Good evening, Paweł. So what do we know about the political situation in Kosovo a day after the elections?
Well, nearly 100% of the votes cast on Sunday's parliamentary elections have been counted so far, and the results presented by them do not differ much from those from exit polls. And the party that emerges victorious after the Sunday's vote is Vetëvendosje. Vetëvendosje that has been ruling the country for 4 years. It created a majority government that allowed them to govern independently. However, the same feat will not be possible this time round because Vetëvendosje scored around 40% of support, and this means it will have to form a coalition government. And I am told that it will not be an easy task, as the political campaign leading to the Sunday's elections was harsh. I actually spoke on the matter with Professor Besford Recaj from the University of Pristina, and I would like you to listen to a fragment of what he told me.
From rhetorical perspective and what they said during election campaigns, it's hard to imagine Vetëvendosje going into coalition with another party from opposition. On the other hand, we saw all opposition parties at least not keen or did not see it as a natural process to go into coalition with Vetëvendosje. So
Whatever the shape of the future governing coalition, it is unlikely to change the pro-Western, pro-EU orientation of Kosovo. And this is because Kosovo is the most pro-European country in the region, and that stems from the 1999 Kosovo War and the US-led NATO intervention that drove Serbs out of Kosovo and paved the way for the independence of the country. I spoke on the matter with Astrid Begoli, who actually had to flee the country in 1999, and I would like you to listen to a fragment of what he told me.
It is a EU enthusiastic country because during the war and also before the war, you know, we had a lot of people that work there abroad, in Switzerland, in America, in Holland and everywhere. So we were every time somehow connected because all the goods and all our parents that work there and everybody was bringing the goods, you know, from the Europe.
What can change, though, is the Kosovo's orientation towards a dialogue with Serbia. Vetëvendosje was very adamant, very decisive on its crackdown on Serbian minority in Kosovo, on Serbian institutions, which resulted in the US and EU imposing sanctions on Kosovo. However, potential coalition partners for Vetëvendosje, and especially the Democratic Party of Kosovo, are considered the parties that are more open towards a more conciliatory approach when it comes to Kosovo-Serbian relations. Back to you.
Thank you so much. That was Paweł Trzaskowski reporting from Pristina in Kosovo. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis has stepped down in response to overwhelming pressure from his parliament. He was due to leave office after the presidential elections in May, but his early ouster is another sign of the turbulent political situation facing Romania.
The supporters of the far-right politician Călin Georgescu got what they wanted.
To spare Romania and the Romanian citizens from this crisis, from this unnecessary and negative evolution, I resign from the position of President of Romania. I will leave office the day after tomorrow, February 12th. May God bless Romania.
The resignation of President Klaus Iohannis is the latest in a tumultuous period for Romanian politics. He was originally set to make place for his successor, but the results of the first round of November's presidential elections were annulled by the country's highest court.
We shall continue in the democratic manner. I ask very clear for peace, for all the things which we have to recuperate our democracy, because the democracy was cancelled with a court.
Georgescu, the surprising winner of the first round, was found to have received undeclared foreign financing, most likely from Russia. It resulted in massive boosting through social media, notably TikTok. There was criticism of the verdict from the right. It was accompanied by growing pressure from the Romanian parliament for Iohannis to resign. Iohannis has also made himself unpopular by staying on the sidelines during the ongoing crisis.
The president thus understood that he needs to resign as a symbolic gesture and to leave the coalition government's candidate, presidential candidate, to leave him without any specific burdens.
Iohannis remained president longer than expected. He was first elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2019 for a second term. A member of Romania's ethnic German minority and a Protestant in Orthodox Romania, Iohannis chose an unapologetically Western course for the country. Iohannis was bound to be replaced as his second term was up, only staying on until the coming elections, which happened to come at a low point in his popularity.
He was very cold, he was very rigid, and most likely when Romania had some issues or some potential problems, he communicated with a delay. With a delay, usually in which usually something more or less happened.
While the jury's out on who will benefit from Iohannis's resignation, Romania's far right will definitely not mourn his exit.
Poland and Norway's defense ministers reiterated their commitment to mutual defense as they visited Norwegian F-35 fighter jets stationed in Poland. Allied cooperation within NATO was the main theme of Norway's Chief of Defence's first foreign visit. Our correspondent Marek Steele has the story.
On a regular basis, it is Polish F-16 fighter jets, which you can see behind me, that are stationed in this military airbase in Poznań, western Poland. But since January, 4 Norwegian F-35A jets, which you can see here next to the F-16s. These jets are stationed in Poland as part of a NATO mission, a Norwegian NATO mission to the country, which aims to deter possible enemies and is an air policing mission. The Polish and Norwegian defense minister visited Poznań today, this airbase, to observe the exercises which are taking place with the use of the F-35A from Norway. Poland is actually among the countries which have already purchased this state-of-the-art American fighter jet. Poland bought 32 such jets in 2020, and the first are to be delivered as soon as next year.
We talked today about joint ventures and adopted an action plan for this year. One of the most important elements will be reaching and hopefully soon signing a new agreement on security, cooperation between our countries and exchange of experience. The F-35s are a good basis for discussing the future as well. Norway already has a very strong fleet of these aircraft. Soon Polish F-35s will be stationed here. So the exchange of experience and joint training in this area is, of course, necessary for us.
Poland is a close ally with a key role in European defence and deterrence. You have also made big investments in your defence capabilities, which strengthen both our cooperation and NATO as a whole.
And why is the F-35 superior over other jets? Well, first of all, it is very hard to detect because of stealth technology, and it can sneak into enemy airspace and leave before it's detected. Secondly, it sees everything thanks to advanced sensors and radars. It can do many jobs at once, as it is a multi-role jet. It can do air-to-air combat at the same time. It can handle bombing and spying on enemy movements. It's also very fast and maneuverable. It can fly at a supersonic speed of more than 1,200 miles per hour while still being nearly undetectable. It also works as a team player, and it sends data in real time to other objects, for instance, other jets or ships or objects on the land with the latest data that it obtains.
I used to fly the F-16 for approximately 6 years before, and switching from the F-16 to the F-35 is quite similar when it comes to how you actually control the airplane. But with the screens and the technology that you have in the jet, the F-35 is kind of the next generation, kind of switching from a slightly older cell phone until the new iPhone. But the F-16 also has its qualities when it comes to being easier to maintain, easier to operate. So the more expensive F-35, it works well together in combination with F-16.
The fact that Norwegian F-35s are on a mission in Poland is nothing extraordinary. Poland and Norway are close military partners. They cooperate under the multinational Corps Northeast, which is stationed in northwestern Poland. They are also vital economic partners, and Norway helped Poland wean itself off Russian gas supplies, as a pipeline connecting Poland through Denmark to Norway was completed in 2022 and allowed Poland to become energy independent from Russia. Marek Steele, Poznań, TVP World.
Elon Musk has called for a shutdown of the U.S.-funded outlets Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. This follows the White House's move to freeze USAID programs for 90 days. But this latest attack on independent media is of particular significance, considering their proven contribution to democracy building across the globe. Zuzanna Jurek reports.
Tonight's person. As the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, Musk claims to be preoccupied with cost-cutting, and now he has found his new target, Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. Responding to a post by U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Special Missions Richard Grenell, who posted to say that Radio Free Europe and Voice of America are financed by American taxpayers and, quote, filled with far-left activists, Musk said.
Yes, shut them down. 1. Europe is free now, not counting stifling bureaucracy. Hello. 2. nobody listens to them anymore. 3, it's just radical left crazy people talking to themselves while torching $1 billion a year of US taxpayer money.
But these outlets have played a vital role in ensuring transparency across the world since the last century, while the Voice of America stands to provide independent coverage of news from Washington to international audiences. Radio Free Europe was essential in fighting the communist propaganda from behind the Iron Curtain.
The post-communist countries have received a numerous support in numbers, in financial aid to build their democracies.
And since then, it works to ensure that the achievements of the 1990s revolutions continue their momentum.
Because of democratic backsliding here in the region, setting the standards media are important for building democracy.
The uncertainty surrounding the US funding now means that independent media and NGOs are left to wonder where the necessary financial assistance will come from.
And the European Union should, of course, increase its support for the Belarusian independent media, because it is not only independent media, but other, let's say, NGOs, near-political or even political structures that have also fallen under the blockage of funds.
Though the bloc stepping in may seem like an obvious answer, some observers point out that it may be an ineffective solution.
They will apply to the same goals of the European Commission, for example, which creates an unnecessary and rather harming situation of competition.
At a time when misinformation and disinformation is on the rise, including in Poland.
Our agencies monitor every day our activity in cybersphere, and they identified this group with the background of Russian FSB.
Observers warn that free media is the only way to ensure the task which began in the 1990s.
If European countries do not have a robust scene of independent media, whether those are private media or NGO media, and if we are attacked by disinformation not only from China and Russia anymore, but also from the social platforms, media platforms like the X platform, for example, the challenge will be extremely, extremely difficult.
Can you hear me okay?
With elections scheduled across multiple countries in Europe, resistance to Musk's agenda.
The main goal seems to be redefining the media.
Will prove imperative to supporting robust democracies.
Mercedes, Airbus, Spotify, L'Oreal, Siemens and Mistral. Those are just a few of over 60 European companies that launched the EU AI Championship Initiative on Monday. The program, aimed to position Europe as a global AI leader, was announced as the AI Action Summit in Paris. Our reporter Karolina Stolzman explored how Poland could contribute to this European AI revolution.
Hopes for the Paris AI Action Summit were high from the beginning.
I am delighted to welcome you to this unprecedented AI summit in Paris.
150 billion euro. That's the funding for the EU AI Champions Initiative to improve Europe's competitiveness with the US and China, which was announced at the AI Action Summit in Paris. A summit attended by both US Vice President J.D. Vance and Chinese Vice Premier Zhang Guoqing.
China is racing the US. These are the two powerhouses of artificial intelligence, and Europe is nowhere to be seen with its own innovation agenda.
Some experts blame the European AI regulations.
It's much harder to train AI models in Europe due to the numerous regulations. The result is that the top AI models are being developed in China and the US.
But the Polish government remains cautious on the matter.
The AI Act has just been passed, so it cannot be the sole reason why European innovators are not as scaled up as their Chinese and US counterparts.
And puts the blame elsewhere.
Spending. And this is the crucial point, and this is one of the, I would say that this is the number one reason why Europe has fallen behind both USA and China.
In Paris, Europe is taking steps towards improving its AI technology. But Poland isn't there to take part.
The game has changed dramatically. So far, only Meta has released their
model in some sort of open source. Now, with DeepSeek being widely available and quite not very resource intensive, it means that many players, many corporations will try to develop their own AI solutions.
Funding might be one of the first steps towards improving Europe's AI competitiveness. But with Donald Trump announcing a $500 billion investment in AI on day 2 of his presidency, Europe, even with its €150 billion funding, and Poland with a €1 billion budget for digitization in 2025, still have a long way to go if they want to catch up with top AI players.
As the 2-day AI Action Summit unfolds in Paris, a major push to position Europe as a global leader in AI is starting to take place. Having announced a €150 billion pledge for the new EU AI Championships initiative, Europe is trying to make AI the cornerstone of its strategic and economic future. Joining me now in the studio is Marta Poślad, Director for CE and Transatlantic Public Policy at Google, and a member of the Polish government's Digital Advisory Board. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you, Claudia, for having me on the show.
Pleasure. So let's take a look at some of the numbers, because we heard that France is going to invest €109 billion into AI development. They follow in the steps of new US President Donald Trump, who on his first day actually said that he's going to dedicate $500 billion for the Stargate project. Wanting to get a better understanding of the dynamics and who is first in the race, who is actually the leader in AI as of now?
That's a great question. I think we're going to hear, let me first comment on the numbers. I think we're hearing a lot of numbers. We're going to keep on hearing numbers, governments, companies, ecosystem talking about the investment needed. And I would say that it's often comparing an apple to a banana. So let's be mindful of that, and let's not fall into a trap of thinking there will be a one ranking of who's best positioned to embrace the opportunity. And I think that takes me to your question on who's in the lead. I think the overarching consensus would be that definitely US is much ahead in terms of AI development. The closest US ally, Europe, is now trying to catching up. And that is all likely going to counterweight some bad actors that are also developing their AI. And I think, look, competition is good. And it's great to see that conversation about AI development today is happening not only in Paris, but also in Warsaw. It's fantastic to hear Europe is thinking long term. It's great that the US is joining the Paris summit, at that summit. So while some competition out there and looking at rankings will be, of course, helpful and motivating, I think that the essence of the debate is more important here.
So do you think that Europe is actually going to have the ability to compete with the US and China when it comes to development of the AI? Because that seems to be a resounding question when we're looking at this particular corner of the world.
Again, I think Europe today should think about how to best leverage the closest relationship Europe has, and that is transatlantic partnership with the US. How to use the momentum that is happening in the US. How to apply best-in-class, bold and responsible, as we say at Google, development of AI for the benefit of applications, of also learning and cooperating. And I feel I don't think it's the right angle to look at it from to say who's going to be ahead of whom, especially between US and Europe. And I think the like-minded partners should be working on that together.
As we mentioned today in one of our reports, EU AI Championships initiative is going to unite 60 companies. We've heard some really big names when it comes to Europe and its AI capabilities. What's your opinion on this initiative? And when are we going to see a certain change or involvement from these companies to change the AI market here in Europe?
I think it's great. The more, the merrier. I think coming up with a new budget, bringing companies together leads to more cooperation and leads to building that capacity. Again, timeline is also a complicated and a matrix question. There is no one AI. For the past 2 years, people used to think AI is chatbots. It's either ChatGPT or Gemini delivered by Google. But today, we're talking about AI as a tool that cuts through every sector every other technology, every device. So there will be different timelines on which this will be developed. I think there is a strong sense in the tech community that the time is now. And it's, again, great to see that Europe is catching up, proposing more initiatives. Fantastic that the US is joining that table and that discussion. And I would only hope that we'll be seeing different timelines, that there will be this sense of rebuilding European competitiveness, where European stakeholders will be understanding that the time is now, and they will not be waiting just for the development of this one European AI, but we'll be seeing fantastic applications coming from European companies and industries.
Definitely. As you mentioned before, competition is good.
Absolutely.
Competition means growth. As I've been going through the list of companies, Polish companies are not really involved in this project. Why do you think this is the case? And does that mean that Poland is lagging behind? What can be done more so that Poland actually boosts its position on this European AI market?
I think, again, there are many different projects, so I wouldn't read into it that on this particular one you don't identify many Polish companies. Many great Polish companies are actually in Paris, like 11 Labs, a fantastic Polish AI-driven company. I would also say that there are great companies that do not need to be part of these initiatives because they are so much far ahead. And again, of course, a lot could be said about Poland's readiness to embrace the AI opportunity. But again, I would look at the bright side of what has been happening today. Today, we've heard great commitments and interest of the government and the public sector to look deeper into AI applications and how to stay competitive. And I think we see all the right initiatives getting announced all around. So I think this is truly what matters, and it's a team sport. It will not only happen from the public sector's end, but it will require public-private partnership.
As you mentioned, we had Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. He announced Poland's new economic strategy. He said that the investment is likely to top 155 billion euros, so a great investment, 650 billion zloty by comparison, in what he called a breakthrough year for the country. We know that there are talks between Microsoft, Google, and the Polish government, but how do you think that the money from that poll is going to be invested in the development of the AI?
I think this question should go to the government, but I think what we should take out of what happened today is that we start seeing a multitude of initiatives. Government's positions here are incredibly important, especially when it comes to funding local initiatives, supporting the ecosystem, supporting the academia. Then private sector has an incredibly important role to play, and I feel myself representing a US company, but also representing American Chamber of Commerce, that there is so much we need to also give up and set up with our partners here in Poland. And again, government will know best where the money should go, what is their priority, what is their investment, but it doesn't free any other stakeholders in this process free from obligations.
I wanted to ask you this question, as you happen to have the expertise. Why is Google changing its usage of AI principles when it comes to using AI as a weapon? It not only, and I don't mean only using AI as a weapon as we know weapons to be, but also, for example, an element of infiltrating the society and, for example, providing fake news.
Mm-hmm. I think your question is essentially about principles that surround AI. When these have been set up and Google announced them a few years ago, we knew much less about this technology. We knew much less about the applications. We knew much less about how people will be approaching AI. So with that change, while we're not changing the core principle of how we want our technology to be used, we're not changing our commitment for it to be used in a responsible manner, and we've been making it loud and clear that safety is our first priority. But what we are changing is the approach for how we're going to review that use to be able to respond to the needs of the moment. But I'd like to underscore that this does not change our core principle of security and safety first when it comes to using AI.
Definitely, there's going to be a very long conversation. And as you mentioned, this is a very dynamic field where a lot of attention and a lot of finances is going to go into. Thank you so much. Marta Poślad, Director for CEE and Transatlantic Public Policy at Google and a member of the Polish government's Digital Advisory Board. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Claudia.
And so this would be all for now here on World News Tonight, but please do stay tuned. We're back here on TVP World with more news and features in just a moment.